This is Investor Ideas at Money 2020 2016, a fintech and payment conference held in Las Vegas. This track session, How Digital Currency Will Change the World, features Brian Armstrong, CEO and co-founder of Coinbase, and he shares why he believes digital currencies will evolve over time and will ultimately change the world through empowering economic freedom.
What is Bitcoin? What is digital currency? Why should people care?
Yeah. Well, digital currency is an open payment system for the world. What do I mean by open system? It means something kind of like the internet, where there's no one country or company who controls it. And we've seen a lot of open protocols like that, like email, SMS, the web, like HTTP. These are all open protocols that have grown globally around the world, and that's what digital currency is trying to do, is making an open payment system for the world.
So, you had a nice gig as an early engineer at Airbnb. Mm-hmm. Why did you go off and decide to start a Bitcoin company?
Yeah. Well, so I studied computer science and economics in school, and I was always really interested in the intersection of this. How is, software is disrupting every industry, medicine, Hollywood, and when is it going to come to disrupt finance? So Bitcoin has kind of gone through some interesting periods over the last 4 or 5 years. It had a big bubble. It had a giant run-up in price kind of in late 2013, early 2014, where it went from just like roughly $1 to over $1,200 for Bitcoin in a span of just a year or two. And post the bubble and the hype, it kind of crashed back down to about $200. Now Bitcoin is roughly trading around $650, and it's had some challenges scaling out there as well. And so the other digital currencies have started to come up. Ethereum is one that we think is very interesting and very promising. We mentioned Litecoin. There's literally hundreds of these other digital currencies out there in the world, and we're planning to add more in the future. One way you could think about it is that there's some digital currencies which are kind of like money that people are using just to transfer around value. There's other digital currencies that are very specific to certain companies, and they're almost like stocks or something like that companies are trading. So Augur is a prediction market that uses digital currency, which I think is a really interesting project. And they released their own token, which is used for reputation inside the prediction market. Now, people could buy and sell some of these, and there's now like a market cap of roughly $100 million of Augur rep tokens, right? You can exchange them to digital currency or dollars or whatever you want. And so we're seeing companies, we're calling these like app coins instead of money. It's a little bit like startups issuing equity in their startup or doing crowdfunding. And like just this year, we've seen well over $200 million of companies raising money on the blockchain. Instead of it being like an IPO, people are calling it like an ICO, an initial coin offering. And it's
to keep the SEC happy and everyone else.
Sure. There's a lot of open questions, right? And we're seeing people essentially bypass the traditional fundraising model of like seed round, A round, eventually you go IPO. They're kind of issuing their own token, raising money organically, and so this is like maybe even like stock market 2.0 where this is going.
People have stashed their cryptocurrency. How has that panned out? What have you been doing since then?
This technology was really powerful, but nobody was going to actually be able to use it unless we made it easy to use. So, SMTP is the protocol behind email, but most people, they don't run their own email server and have to deal with their own backups.
Well, there are some people.
Yeah, but that's the perils of running your own email server, right? So most people they just use Gmail, right? And they trust another company to do the security and backups for them. So that was the original idea behind Coinbase. Then we decided, people really want to be able to buy and sell digital currency and connect their bank account. And so we were really the first company out there that went and started proactively working with banks in the United States, regulators. We've now raised money from a number of financial institutions, banks, the USAA, New York Stock Exchange, and we've proactively worked with regulators around the world. So we're regulated right now as a money transmitter in a number of states. And so we made it easier for people to buy and sell digital currency. And that really became our business model. So really in the last 12 months, we've roughly tripled our revenue, and it's really just people coming to buy and sell a little bit of digital currency. We charge a fee for that. And then once you're in the digital currency world, you can send and receive payments anywhere in the world instantly, and we don't charge anything for that.
So you've recently made a number of substantial changes to your site.
Yeah.
For instance, you renamed your trading exchange. You added more cryptocurrencies that you can trade and exchange on it. And you also redesigned the website, or at least have a website redesign rolling out in the near future, which we wrote about at Fortune.
Yeah.
So why these changes? What's going on over there?
Yeah, well, Coinbase is really moving from being a wallet to being like a brokerage or an exchange. So right now, we are the most popular place in the world. People buy and sell digital currency, and so you could think of it a little bit like in the world of stocks, you have Fidelity or Charles Schwab, and that's where the average consumer may go to buy and sell these assets. And you also have things like the New York Stock Exchange, which is where institutions trade and professional investors. And so we have a platform that's similar to that as well for digital currency. It's an exchange for institutions and professional traders. We call that GDAX, stands for Global Digital Asset Exchange, and that's currently the most popular place professional institutions and professional traders exchange digital currency in the United States.
And that's not somewhere I would go to do my own sort of like neophyte trading of cryptocurrencies, right?
Correct. Like if you're a sophisticated trader and you want to do limit orders and play the market, and have a more sophisticated interface, you could go there. But it's mostly designed for institutions and professional traders.
You talked about some of the challenges that Ethereum has faced, such as one of the most hyped projects on Ethereum, which was called the DAO. It was supposed to be this decentralized venture capital firm that sort of was distributed across everybody's computers. Everybody could have equity in and choose what projects to invest in, but it exploded.
Mm-hmm.
Has that dampened your spirits or changed your outlook?
Not too much. I mean, so the DAO was not a flaw in the Ethereum protocol, but it was actually a flaw in one particular smart contract that someone wrote. So just like any software out there, it can have bugs. Like if you find a bug in a piece of software written in Java, it doesn't really call into question the entire Java language. It just means that there's a burgeoning industry of people who are starting to get knowledgeable about how to write smart contracts on the Ethereum blockchain. Some kind of hybrid of like lawyers and software engineers need to come together to build these. And if you look at contracts today, like if you go and buy a house, there's all these tons of clauses in there, and subject to the following conditions. You're like, man, where did they come up with that one? And it's because there's hundreds of years of case law built up around these exceptions that people have found. And this entire when I say smart contracts, those essentially software written on the Ethereum blockchain. The whole industry is only about like 10 months old. So there's maybe like 40 people in the entire world who are like really knowledgeable about how to write these contracts. And so what you're seeing is just like early experimentation happening and bugs being found. It's good. It means there's progress happening.
Coinbase isn't the only exchange out there, or brokerage rather. There are a few others. Not all of them obey all the rules or regulations. They might storm into markets and kind of do their own thing. Are you afraid of them surpassing you or somehow getting ahead of Coinbase, since they don't have this sort of willingness or need to cooperate with regulators?
Yeah. No, I think we have the right strategy. Actually, I'm really proud about this, which is that, roughly, we have about 115 people at Coinbase. Roughly 20% of them work on compliance in some way, shape, or form. I'm really this is a big thing we have at Coinbase. We have a culture of compliance. We do training around this. We go out, we do trainings with law enforcement, with regulators out there. We've applied for an e-money license in Europe. We've applied for the BIT license in New York. Money transmitter licenses in all 50 states in the U.S. So, we are committed to being the most compliant digital currency company out there. And the reason why is that we know that for digital currency to succeed, we need to work with the existing financial ecosystem out there. So we do have a number of competitors that are kind of adopting more of a ask for forgiveness instead of permission kind of mentality. And across all kinds of ways, peer-to-peer lending, margin trading, like CFTC, SEC, consumer protection, all sorts of things, OFAC. And I think that history has shown that that's not the right strategy. You can do that for a little while if you're flying under the radar of the regulators, but I think regulators are starting to wake up and pay attention to this industry, and we're here to stand the test of time. We're not interested in making a quick buck.
Bitcoin, like you said, had this big peak of excitement. It maybe has fallen down a little bit after these big hacking incidents that happened, like Mt. Gox. what is Coinbase's runway? When does this have to hit the big time or go mainstream for you guys to, be?
Yeah, we've grown the business very conservatively, I would say, because we did recognize early on that there was timing risk in this industry. We're getting in early. That's how you build formative companies. Is you get in early and you skate to where the puck is going, essentially. But we have well over 4 years of runway at this point. We've raised $117 million. We have good revenue. Like I mentioned, our revenue kind of monthly has roughly tripled in the last 12 months. So I think we could essentially stop hiring today and hit break even in, I'd say less than 6 months or something like that. So there aren't very many companies in Silicon Valley who have over 4 years of runway. We want to make sure that we're growing this deliberately and we can have real revenue that we can use to invest in all the different stages of digital currency as it unfolds over the coming years. And I do think there will be many stages in this, by the way. Like the first stage was the protocol got invented. It's kind of like TCP/IP if you want to compare to the internet, right? And then infrastructure had to get built. And in the internet age, that was like ISPs and people laying fiber optic cable all over the world and stuff like that. And then in digital currency, you needed exchanges and secure storage and things like that, which is really where Coinbase is operating today. Now that some of the infrastructure is starting to get built, there's the next phase of adoption, which is like, there needs to be a mass market consumer interface that gets built. And that was the web browser. And you had things like HTML get built, which was a much higher level language instead of low level things like TCP/IP. So that allowed applications to start to get built. In digital currency, I don't think that's been built yet, but we have some exciting plans there. And then finally, you had things like Web 2.0, where JavaScript, all the technology got good enough where you started to see a flourishing of applications out there in the world. And that we're kind of calling that like Finance 2.0 that might happen as the mass market consumer interface gets built on top of digital currency. So I think that's going to be a 5 or 10 year journey. I think you're first going to see digital currency get adopted in certain niches, things where people's next best alternative is either much worse or non-existent. Things like games, cross-border payments, prediction markets, even VR. Like I think people meeting in virtual worlds doesn't make sense to use the currency of one country. You have people in there from all over the world. And so you're going to see it happen in niches there first, and it's going to slowly grow into more and more areas because payments are like water. They flow to the path of least resistance. And the technology now exists where you can send money instantly anywhere in the world for almost free. And I think more and more things are just going to happen on this new network in the future.